And we're just like trying to move through doing the exact same thing we did in our 20s and 30s, and it's not working. Caloric restriction at our age without paying attention to the quality of the food that you're eating, focusing on an anti-inflammatory approach to nutrition, does not work for the long term and is actually probably harming you.
Welcome to the Suburban Warrior Podcast, the podcast that inspires, educates, and empowers women navigating the chaos of midlife, perimenopause, and menopause. I am your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, a holistic health coach and fierce advocate for women's wellness. With a background in nursing, the pharmaceutical industry, and integrative nutrition, I blend medical expertise with a holistic approach to help women heal naturally, integrate science-backed therapies, and take control of their health. After enduring my own 10-year battle with perimenopause symptoms, I've made it my mission to ensure that no woman has to suffer in silence. Join me as I share expert insights, real-life stories, and actionable strategies to help women reclaim their vitality, prioritize their well-being, and redefine midlife wellness with grit and grace. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, and I want to thank you for being here and listening today. Before we get into this week's episode, I want to remind you all of a free download that we have. It is the From Pause to Power Roadmap. You can find this on suburbanwarriorpodcast.com, and again, it is free. And this is a free roadmap to help you from really the beginning of your perimenopause all the way through menopause, all the steps, all the information, all the questions to ask. It's all the information I wish I had when I was going through perimenopause, and this is free to you. So I encourage you all, check it out, download it for free, bring it with you to the doctor's office. It is full with so much great information. And while you're there at suburbanwarriorpodcast.com, don't forget to sign up for the Pause Like a Warrior newsletter. This is basically a summary of every episode of the podcast, each week sent right into your inbox. So don't forget to check that out as well. So this week, I'm really excited about this amazing replay that we're doing. This episode is from 5 years ago. It's hard to believe that, from back in 2020 when I had just started the podcast. And I am bringing back this episode because it's one of my favorites. And not only that, it also, all the information that we're talking about in this episode is still so very true today. And it's with Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who most of you all know and have heard of. Follow her on Instagram. And in this episode specifically, we are talking about the Galveston Diet. We are talking about nutrition. We are talking about strategies that we can do for ourselves outside of pharmaceuticals, outside of HRT. It's really about the foundation, because so much is changing within our body, but it's so important at this phase of our lives to change things for us outside of our bodies. Like, what are we doing? What is different? What do we need to change in order to really not just, it's not about quote unquote getting through this phase of life, because now we know that's not what we're trying to do. What we're really trying to do is thrive. We are trying to thrive not only now, but make sure that we're thriving and we have this beautiful wellness and feel great in our 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. So guys, check out this episode with Dr. Mary Claire Haver. I'm so excited to replay it, and let me know what you think in the comments. What's up, warriors? Thank you for joining another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. Today's show is going to be a good one because today's guest has so much experience, expertise, and advice to share as she shares her warrior story with us. I'd like to welcome Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who is going to help us learn how to take back our power over menopause. Dr. Haver is a wife, mom, physician, and entrepreneur who has devoted her adult life to women's health. As a board-certified OBGYN in the Houston area, Dr. Haver has delivered thousands of babies, completed thousands of well women exams, counseled patients, taught residents, and did everything an academic professor and OBGYN could do. She is also the founder and creator of the Galveston Diet, the first and only nutrition program in the world created by a female OBGYN. designed for women in menopause. The Galveston Diet is dedicated to helping women reach their health and wellness goals through an anti-inflammatory approach to nutrition. She has been married to her husband, Christopher Haver, since 1996, and they have 2 lovely girls in their lives. Welcome, Mary Claire. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
I am really excited because obviously we're going to get into the Galveston Diet and how you created that and why that is such a phenomenal program. But I have to say, one of the biggest reasons I'm excited to have you on is because as a 45-year-old woman in menopause, I think the conversation around the symptoms of menopause and what we experience as women needs to be more prevalent. It needs to be out there. And the conversations that are only taking place in the doctor's office, they're not good enough, right? We need to be sharing with each other. We need to be more open about our experiences that we're going through. And I think through the Galveston Diet and all of the social media and the Facebook groups, you are really helping to expand that conversation of menopause, even just beyond the diet itself.
It's, Galveston Diet has morphed into a true wellness plan, a way for women to address their own health and the way that they want to age in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, beyond, using a cornerstone of nutrition to head that way. And one of the most, shocking things to me, and most physicians will tell you, we received little to no instruction or education on true nutrition. We were taught carbohydrates, protein, fats, but as far as how micronutrients, react with the body on a biochemical basis and how, minute changes other than like true deficiencies like iodine deficiency causing like a goiter, can affect and how those nutrition needs change as we age is huge. And when I was coming up in training, when we were taught to talk to people about weight loss, the only tools we were given was caloric restriction. Now, I'm not knocking Newton's law of thermodynamics. You will lose weight if you restrict your calories. You need to burn calories for energy. You burn more than you eat, you lose weight. But I'm talking about more than just quick weight loss. I'm talking about long-term sustainable weight loss in the face of unexplained weight gain. And that's what I found, when I was in private practice. When you get out of practice, most of us are, young. I was just in my late 20s and 30s, and most of my patients were young, starting their families. And then as I was aging in my practice, so were my patients. So I just started noticing through the years, patients in their late 30s, 40s coming to me for their only doctor visit of the year, which was their well woman exam, other than if they had a cold or something and just popped into an urgent care. Listen, I'm eating well. I really hadn't had much of a weight problem, and I'm exercising. I'm doing all the normal things. Nothing's changed except I am gaining weight and I can't understand it. And I would look at them and do everything I was taught to do in school. Exercise more, eat less. Exercise more, eat less. And they're like, okay, but I'm really not changing what I've done. And I never had this problem before. And now I'm having a problem. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, it's just part of aging. It's just normal. And that's just all I was taught. There wasn't any education information around nutrition and the quality of food. It was simply the quantity, calories in, out, whatever. So
I will say, just to interrupt you on that, because I think that experience of what you're talking about, what you said to your patients, so many patients out there have experienced that, because I know for me in my personal journey, 2 years ago, I was 43. It was literally like someone flipped a light switch on me. Like I was fine going through my life. Everything was great. And I woke up one day and literally all day and all night was experiencing hot flashes, like to the point where I thought I had some kind of chronic illness. At first, I thought it was a virus, and weeks went by and I had no idea what it was. I went into my doctor and I was like, test me for everything, run every blood test. Something is wrong with me. I don't know what it is. And then when they came back, her reaction was, welcome to menopause. I was like, wait, what? No. That's not supposed to be. Yeah, I'm only 43. How is that possible? But whether it's perimenopause or menopause or the beginning stages, the bottom line is I was experiencing symptoms, and the hot flashes were the most evident at that time. But since then, it's everything else that comes along with it, like the weight gain, like not being able to sleep, the emotional changes, everything hormonal. But that interaction in the doctor's office was, it's all a normal part of aging. And there wasn't too many solutions.
Right.
And that's why I think what you're talking about and the Galveston diet and the weight gain, but also being able to create this conversation so that more people can share their stories of not being able to lose weight and understand that they're not the only ones going through it. And while it's a normal part of aging, there are solutions out there that can help us feel better.
I mean, not to knock my profession, we just weren't taught. It just
Sure.
women, especially at our age, sadly, in medical studies tend to be marginalized. The only people paying for medical studies at our age, the NIH is pulled in 1,000 different directions. It's very political. Women always get, women going through menopause. They're like, why do they need help? This is just menopause. It's just a part of life. The only people paying for a study are the people who are making drugs. And so as physicians, we're just like, take this pill. You'll be better. That's all I have to offer you. And the funny thing is that I give them the HRT back, hormone replacement therapy. Hot flashes get better, bone density improves, all of that. They're still gaining weight. And I have the answer to that. But, sadly, here's the sad part where I'm so embarrassed. It wasn't until it happened to me that I was like, wait a minute. Like I knew it was coming. I'm like, I sound just like all my patients. Oh my God. And I doubled down in the gym and I was basically doing like 900 calorie a day diets, these crazy cleanses. I was like, this is coming off. I'm not going to live like this.
Yeah, you were doing what we all do as patients and struggle.
I was like, no, this is crazy. So I went to the nutrition department at my university.
Wait, I'm going to stop you because I before you go there, can you share with us your personal journey? How you got there? Because, like you said, it wasn't until you personally experienced it yourself that you decided you needed to find a solution for yourself. But can you tell our listeners, because I think it's really impactful, how you got there?
So right around the time I turned 40, I had a big change in my life. We had a hurricane come through Galveston. It was called Hurricane Ike. It was about 2 years after Katrina had wiped out New Orleans and wiped out my community. We lost, we had no schools open. All the infrastructure was out. We couldn't move back for weeks. So we had to find apartments. We found a brand new apartment complex. So several of my friends and kids all moved into this apartment. I was sharing an apartment with another family. We made it work. It was okay. But part of the therapy with my girlfriends when we could finally move home was we all signed up for the Houston Half Marathon. None of us were runners before. And we thought, we'll just walk it. But it's just something for us to do, because I didn't have a job. My hospital was shut down. I didn't know, my husband was in grad school. And we started walking on the seawall here in Galveston. And then we jog a little and we jog a little more. And eventually we were running. And when it came time for the marathon, we all ran it 13 and a half miles when we never thought we could. So that was kind of my first, like right at 40, getting into exercise. And shortly after that, my husband accepted a position in Latin America with his oil company. And I took a sabbatical and we moved there. And all of a sudden I didn't have a job. I wasn't working the 120-hour weeks. And I got super involved in Beachbody and I was doing P90X and I had this little workout group. So it was the first time I'd gotten into resistance training. So by the end of those 2 years, I was running and doing resistance training, swimming. I was in the best shape of my life at like 42. So then I move home and kind of get back to the routine. I can't work out as much because I'm going back to work and my hours are crazy, but I was still like focused and determined to do what I could. But I did notice, I'm working out, but God, my scrubs are tight. I feel like I'm eating the same, but it was creeping on. And then I kind of had a catalyst. few years later, my brother, who had had HIV for a long time, started having like accelerating disease. His hepatitis really took off. He was having multiple hospital admissions for esophageal varices, wake up vomiting blood. And, the whole world started revolving around, is he well enough to come visit? Like I put an elevator. I live in an elevated home because of the floods. I spent the money and put an elevator in my house so he could come visit because he couldn't climb the stairs. Like he was just getting so sick, so sick, so sick. So all of a sudden he had a stroke and then very quickly deteriorated. We brought him home on hospice, and my sister and I did all the hospice care, and which was beautiful. And if you ever want to die, that's the way to go. Surrounded by friends and family at home, with your sisters loving and caring for you and everybody telling stories and all that. But let me tell you, that was hard.
Very, very hard, I'm sure.
And depression and sadness I went through after that. I could not find any energy to exercise. I paid zero attention to what I was eating. I was just eating anything out of a bag in a box. I don't even know, months of that. And so finally got some therapy, got some counseling, still had to get up and go to work, still had to be a mom, still had to be a wife, and just exercise and nutrition fell off the deep end. So at the end of that, I woke up at about, I was 46 or 47, 20 pounds overweight. And I was like, okay, no, I don't want to be this girl. It's time. And I could hear his voice and him saying, all right, sister, you can't blame being fat on me anymore. Like, get your ass back in the
It's time.
So I calorically restricted. I was downloading apps. I was weighing twice a day. I get up and pee in the middle of the night and weighing it. I was becoming obsessed.
Oh, the scale.
A pound or two. And I was like, oh my God. Like I was becoming insane. So my husband, who travels overseas a lot, was getting on a plane to go away for a month. And he's like, I was like, when you get back, you're going to have the wife you deserve. And he's like, you're crazy. I'm crazy about this. I have the wife I deserve. Just fix whatever is driving you to do this, because I don't care what you weigh. I don't care. I love you no matter what. So that kind of was a wake up call of, this isn't working. I sound like all my patients. There's got to be a better way. So that was kind of the drive and the motivation of, oh my God, like there's something else going on that we don't understand as a profession. And, it's just little me. I'm pretty smart, but let me see what I can figure out.
Sure.
So I went to the nutrition department. I was like, hey, what's going on? I told them my story in a nutshell. And they're like, look, the studies are done on 25-year-old male athletes and the elderly and a few astronauts, because we are tied. The university was tied heavily to NASA because of our location.
Sure.
It's like, here's what we know. You're going to have to extrapolate stuff in the middle because we don't have a lot of good stuff for women your age in menopause. No one's willing to pay for it. They just get written off. And I'm like, fine. So I started digging. I started trying to find studies that at least included women of our age. And they may have included them, but they didn't stratify the data based on age. So, they would just put out the results, but they didn't say the women of this age had this. But I just kept seeing a recurring theme around this age, especially in the elderly, of inflammation. And then I stumbled across an article on chronic inflammation, and they did kind of talk about women specifically. And basically, there's a perfect storm that goes on as our hormones start changing. One, just natural aging process, inflammation levels go up. It's the natural breakdown system of the body. We're not meant to live forever. Our bodies are not meant to live. We all are going to die. We all accept this. Okay. Right. So natural inflammation levels go up on the chronic state just from the aging process. Okay. A lot of that's genetically driven, but what can we do about that outside of our genes? Every single study points to nutritional changes, filling your body with things that fight inflammation and stop eating the crap that causes it. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Let me put that aside. Next thing, hormone changes. When you do blood tests on women, pre, during, and post menopause, inflammation markers go up dramatically, independent of age, meaning just the process of the ovary shutting down. I'm not talking about just estrogen withdrawal. It's a very complex biochemical process of menopause. So many other little things are made in the ovary as well. But when the ovaries give up the ghost, it's about a 7 to 8 year process. You went through it, still a normal age, but very much on the early side of that.
Yeah. Still going through it.
That causes inflammation. And let me tell you, if you've ever had a hot flash, as you know, Chrissy.
Oh my God.
That's some inflammation going on.
Woo! Watch out.
So that process in itself. Third thing that happens in this perfect storm, Those two processes together, when you have age and inflammaging, I call it together, the weight you gain tends to be in the midline, in your abdomen. Women would walk in my office grabbing their bellies and shaking them. What is this? So that fat, that abdominal fat, is different than the other fat deposits in your body, okay? And it acts itself as a pro-inflammatory organ. Those fats, specifically in the midline, specifically in the omentum and all around your gut, produce inflammatory cytokines. So you've got this swirling vortex of hormone changes causing inflammation, aging causing inflammation, fat deposits causing inflammation. Oh my God. And we're just like trying to move through doing the exact same thing we did in our 20s and 30s, and it's not working. Caloric restriction at our age without paying attention to the quality of the food that you're eating, focusing on an anti-inflammatory approach to nutrition does not work for the long term and is actually probably harming you. When I was starving myself, I was eating out of a bag and a box, those protein bars, Weight Watchers things, Atkins, whatever. Those are so high. When I did the research, my mind was blown. I had never paid attention to that stuff before. But there is hardcore science behind it. It's just not popular because it's cheap and it's easy, it's free, and no one's paying for that. No one's going to make a commercial about that. Everybody wants you to buy their gimmick or buy their potion or their powder or put this pellet in your body and everything will be perfect. And that's just not how it works. So Galveston Diet was created out of me trying to fix myself. It was really selfish. And I was like, all right, I'm going to make these 3 things that I know fight inflammation. Intermittent fasting, and that's free and easy. You don't need program for that. And
which is just to stop you there, which, I know you'll probably get into it more, but I think intermittent fasting, it's a term that's been around for years, right? And it's definitely out there more and more. And there's so many different ways to do it. So I would love for you to expand upon that a little bit, because I know for me, I've read up on it and I feel like what I do like an 8-16 intermittent fasting daily. And since I've done that, I feel like that has worked for me. But okay, but the Galveston Diet is a 3-step approach, one of them being intermittent fasting.
Correct.
Okay. What are the other 2?
The second one being an anti-inflammatory approach to nutrition. So we do a deep dive into, my whole thing is education, just trying to teach people so that when you're making those decisions 6 months from now alone in the grocery store or at a restaurant or whatever, you remember the science and you're like, okay, this is why I'm choosing this. This is why
right.
Rather than Mary Claire Haber told me to do this and it's going to work.
Or rather than also, oh, that's bad for you. That's bad.
Right. You can't eat that.
If you do, then you're going to feel guilty and you're going to feel like crap. But instead of feeling that way and this is bad and this is good, it's more so, why am I fueling my body with this versus that? Mm-hmm. Because that creates a whole different mindset and perception as to why you're actually putting something in your mouth. So I love that. I love the education part of it. It's awesome.
So I talk a lot about the things we know cause inflammation for everyone. And I'm not talking about the fad things. I'm not talking about gluten. That's a whole nother subject. I'm not talking about nightshades. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about nitrites. I'm talking about artificial chemicals. I'm talking about artificial flavoring. I'm talking about the things that we do to food through the processing of it that strip it of anything healthful and just give you back sugar for the most part. And then they've got to add in things to make it palatable, to make it last longer on the shelf, preservatives. It's horrifying when you look at what they do with an innocent little wheat grain kernel.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know.
Which in moderation in and of itself is not a bad thing.
Right.
So the third component of the Galveston Diet is breaking the addiction to simple sugars and processed.
That's a tough one.
You got to do that. The food industry has developed that addiction. Technology has developed that addiction. Our super insanely busy schedules with no time to think about what we're feeding ourselves with or what we're giving our children has created this insanity of, putting your nutrition last. It's affecting not just you, your children, your husband. Women tend to be still the gatekeepers of the kitchen. And when we are deprioritizing, besides what the social impact of not having that family time at dinner and communication and all that, put your damn phones away at my house, excuse my language. We're talking here.
That's fine. That's good, girl. I like it.
So,
get passionate.
It's really sad how as a nation we have allowed busy schedules to get in the way of priorities, of thinking about what you're going to eat, planning what you're going to eat, being conscientious about what you're eating, and a normal part of life. It's special when you do that rather than being something you should be doing.
Absolutely. It is the rare times that we get, I have 4 kids, and the times that we all get to sit together as a family and actually eat, especially during the week because they're older and they're teenagers and they're, in activities. It is just wonderful, but it is something that should be more of an everyday thing, but it's just not anymore. But more importantly, the time that we sit around and have each other, but what are we actually eating? And the on the go, it's impossible. I mean, it really is hard to think about not only your own food choices, but that of your families as well. And so you did the research for yourself, and it was a personal journey, and then it started to spread. Mm-hmm. What do you think it was that was working? Why was it different in menopausal women, what you were offering?
I don't know if it was the message of and the education rather than just like, here's a food list, eat this, don't eat that. This is on the table. This is off the table. I mean, you will lose weight with most diets out there. That's the point. You're restricting something, usually calories, or forcing your body into ketosis. That loses weight. I think what makes mine different is weight loss is a side effect, and they feel so good. They are sleeping better. Their hot flashes are improved. Brain fog is improved. Their mood is better. It is the non-scale benefits, I think, that have kept people in it to win it and making this so different than other programs.
So basically then decreasing the inflammation and the inflammatory process through your diet is, of course, helping you to lose weight, but it's also working to help with all the other symptoms with menopause as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk for a few minutes about intermittent fasting, because I think there's a lot of myths around it out there, or people hear it and they're like, what is that? Can I do it? Some people think that they have to fast for days in order for it to work. What is intermittent fasting and why does it work? Why are you a proponent of it?
So it's fascinating. It's one of my favorite. Actually, this month, January, we're doing a Fastuary challenge, and I do a series of 31 posts throughout the month. One post a day, coaching people through intermittent fasting, educating them. It's just really fun to do, and we have thousands of comments on the post. It's been phenomenal. But in a nutshell, a better way to describe it, but it's not as faddish or popular, is time restricted feeding. So it's basically limiting the time that you eat into a window. So conceptually, when you have a meal that has carbohydrates, protein, and fat, as most of us have a little bit of each, it takes about 12 hours for your body to burn through the glucose derived from the carbohydrates in your meal. The body prefers to burn glucose for fuel. It's the primary fuel source. Once it does that, your body will then turn to the liver and burn any stored glycogen, which is broken down to glucose as well. That's burned through pretty quickly. And then your body's like, all right, I still got to keep going. What are we going to do? So it will start breaking down fat, which is storage. Any carbohydrate that you don't burn off gets stored as fat, okay, for future use, for when you don't have food around. That process of switching from glucose to fat, breaking down fat, using those fatty acids for fuel, does some amazing things to our body. It puts a little bit of stress on the cells. On a cellular basis, it makes the cells work a little bit harder and changes some things on a very tight level in the nucleus. It changes the DNA, it changes a little bit of the genetics of the cell so that the cell becomes more resilient and has to work a little bit harder And so in that process, you actually fight inflammation and disease better. Your brain thinks better when it's utilizing fatty acids for fuel. If you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, we did not have food refrigerators. We did not have pantries. We did not have drive-thrus. We had to go find our meal. We were hunters and gatherers. We went hours or days between protein sources or meals or fat. There were seeds available. You could put that in a basket or a pocket or something while you're scourging around. But it was very, very normal for us to go a very long time between food sources. And during that time, the body was burning the fat stores until you could find the next meal. It makes sense that you think better, that you think faster, that you're more clear when you are in that state, because you're more likely to find food. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense.
People talk to me all the time about how much better, more productive, how they love getting work done. And most people fast in the morning during their fasted state versus their fed state. When you eat, you get a little bit lazy. We all want to
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It makes total sense. I mean, just think about a Thanksgiving meal. I mean, there was a reason everyone's like sleeping on the couch after it. And even lunch, like I know, especially when I was in the corporate world and there's like a set time when you are eating lunch and you go and you kind of like eat a larger lunch because you're not going to eat for the rest of the day. And the afternoon, I'd be so sluggish all the time. And then I would need a coffee or I would need sugar. I would need something because I was so sluggish from eating a larger meal. I think the science behind intermittent fasting makes complete sense to me because I experience it. I feel it. And I think everybody does.
So as far as how to fast, so there's medical benefits to fasting. Weight loss is actually moderate. You lose some weight with intermittent fasting, but you don't really restrict your calories that much. You just eat them in a smaller window. There's actually a fascinating study that was done with overweight participants who were matched for age and gene, whatever. So you have two similar groups of people, each of them eating a 1,200 calorie a day diet. One of them is eating in a traditional American, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. eating window. The others, they shifted them to an 8-hour window of feeding. They both lost weight. The group that was fasting lost a little bit more. However, the medical benefits, the inflammation levels were dramatically better.
Wow.
The blood glucoses were dramatically better in the fasted group. To me, that is just mind-blowing. They're eating the same amount of calories, right? But on a global scale, the fasted people did better. So when you look at how to fast, the medical benefits are the same, whether you do what they call a 5-2, which is eat whatever you want for 5 days. 2 days, you're going to do extreme fasting. You're going to have no more than 500 calories, which you want, but only 500 calories, okay? You have the brain fog, all of that. The inflammation levels drop, the same. Then versus the time restricted feeding, where what we call it, around a 16-8, where you fast for 16 consecutive hours and you eat for 8 consecutive hours. Now we tend to build our sleeping schedule in the fasting, so it's a lot easier to do it that way. So for example, what I do is I eat around noon. Am I perfect every day? No. Some days I go longer, some days I go shorter, and I'm done consistently by 8 p.m. I rarely eat after 7 p.m. Our family has dinner at 6, and I've never been a late night snacker, thank God, So for me, the transition was in the morning. First thing I did every morning was get up and dose my coffee up with milk and sugar or artificial sweetener. And then I'd have breakfast right away and then start my day. And so that to me was a big hurdle to get over. And, but I took my time. I really eased into it. I gave myself a month. And at the end of the month, the irritability, the hunger, all that was gone. I even work out in the morning. It's completely fine. And now it is a normal, natural part of my life. I don't think of it as a thing I'm doing. It's just what I do. It's just easy. Even on travel, it's not that bad. It gets a little squirrely when I'm overseas because the time zones switch. And I'm like, what, am I eating in the US or am I eating in Europe? So I just, do the best I can.
Yeah, exactly. And so my experience with it is, and I have to thank you for your Facebook Lives and the videos that you put out there, that is free content. really for its educational purposes for all of us to see. But it was one of your videos that I caught around intermittent fasting. And I had heard a lot about it. I mean, like I said, it's been out there and I've heard about it. But it was one of your videos that finally struck me to try it for myself because I was resistant because I love breakfast. I loved having a bowl of cereal in the morning and having my coffee with a little bit of creamer. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I could ever do it. And, I've been doing it probably for at least 4 months now. And to your point, it's just, again, once you get used to it, it's just how your body, what it expects, really. I mean, the first, I would say week, maybe 2 weeks, it was hard. I was hungry in the morning. I'm only having black coffee. But again, it's everything that you get used to. And there on the weekends, sometimes if I can't fit into that 8 hours, I don't get down on myself. I don't punish myself. It is what it is. I do my best, which is, what we can all do. But for the most part, I really try to stick with it. And I have noticed a significant difference in how I feel, in my energy levels. And it's made a huge difference for me. Have I lost a little weight? Maybe like you said, a couple pounds, but it's more so in how I feel and my energy levels and the brain fog and those things. So, again, thank you for putting the content out there because it made such a big difference for me.
You're welcome. It's free, it's easy, and drug companies and food companies are fighting it. But New England Journal just published a huge paper on the benefits of fasting. And once it's in the New England Journal, that's pretty much your legit.
That's it. That's legit.
That's it. So, but here's the sad thing. I read the article and it's written by one of my favorite researchers, Mark Mattson. He's the one who did like the groundbreaking research on intermittent fasting and neurodegenerative disease. So Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah.
It's an insanely easy, free treatment for Alzheimer's and dementia. It's beautiful science. So he co-wrote the article that came out and I was reading. I'm so excited. Like this is, finally, the medical community is like really embracing this. And then at the end, he talks about pharmaceutical companies are now developing drugs to mimic intermittent fasting. I'm like, wait, what?
You're like, that's not the point.
Why? And he said, because some people are unwilling to fast. I'm like, why? What? Well, they just don't understand how good it is for you. They'd rather like eat a donut and take a pill than just fast.
Right. Right.
Have we gotten there as a nation? I mean, so just get ready. Pharma, you're going to see drugs coming out to specifically mimic the medical benefits of intermittent fasting. It's free. It's easy. I'm like,
it's free. It's easy. And it makes you feel so good when you do it.
It's powerful. Like what I love about IF, so many people go into it like you did, like I did. Like, I don't think I could do this. Like,
right.
How am I going to not eat breakfast? Like, wow. So, and then they start doing it and they're like, oh, I can do this. Oh, and it just that sense of accomplishment and they feel so good. It's like, I kicked this in the butt. All right, what do you have next, Haver? Let's do this, So
I love it.
It's amazing. And to read that broke my heart in a million pieces. Like I'm still on my soapbox. I'm still jumping up and down, but I can't tackle big pharma, when they got to make money.
Yeah.
They're coming after you, fasters.
Right.
So.
Well, you're doing everything that you can to get the word out and to help all of us women who are going through this midlife change and to keep us in check and help us. I really think of it as taking our power back because, in our 30s, we're feeling good. We're feeling powerful. Like you said, my early 40s, I was like, nothing's going to touch me. I feel great. I'm exercising. I'm eating well. And then like literally someone, put the brakes on. It was like skirt. And that switch just flipped and man, it took me down for a while. It really, really did. But I'm coming back, baby, and I'm feeling good. And a big part of it is learning, what I can do to make myself feel better. And your program is a big part of that. And so I know you have a Facebook group that people can join. It is the Galveston Diet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Galveston, the business page and the group.
Okay.
They have similar information on Instagram, the Galveston Diet,
awesome.
and Pinterest, the Galveston Diet. What else do I have? And you can always email.
TheGalvestonDiet.com.
Oh, GalvestonDiet.com. Yeah, my website, which has tons and tons of information on there and links to the program if you're interested in learning more about the Galveston Diet Signature Course, which is this online program, all self-learning, tons of videos, links, medical journal articles. It's just a labor of love for me. So it is how I'm feeding my family right now as well. It is a business, but I just feel like it is the greatest contribution I have ever made in women's health. And then I'm just touching, what I did for 20 years was beautiful and amazing. But now this is where I'm meant to be at this part of my career in my life.
Yeah, I just love that because you have had such a wonderful career journey throughout the 20 years that you've been a physician, and you've done so many wonderful things. I mean, think about all the lives that you have brought into this world, literally. But this is such an amazing contribution. And I think one, like I have said before, that is really much needed. And this conversation really needs to be happening around the symptoms that we experience at this time in our life. So thank you again so much for joining me today. And again, you can see all of Dr. Mary Claire's information on her Facebook page or group at The Galveston Diet, thegalvestondiet.com, Instagram at The Galveston Diet. And if you like what you hear today, check it out. And please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And thank you so much, warriors, for joining us today. We will see you again soon.